Let's talk Ashton Jeanty to the Jaguars. Since y'all want me to do it, I'm going to do it here today on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast that you can find wherever you get podcasts, whether you watch them or listen to them, we'll be there. Make sure you tap in to that location each and every day so you do not miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Stay tuned for the Armada Player of the Week later in the show. And shout out to the everydayers for joining us and the newcomers also. We're glad to have you. Appreciate you spending your 30 minutes listening to me talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars. All right, we're talking about Ashton Jeanty in the final segment. I'll tell you why it's a no-go for a lot of people. And if the Jaguars decide that it's a no-go for them also, I get it. All right, I'll give you another perspective on running backs. Use a clip from the Locked On NFL show where I talked to former NFL scout Matt Williamson, who's my Friday guest on that show every single week. Shameless plug, check that out. But we have a nice little general conversation about running backs. We're going to start by making a case for Ashton Jeanty to the Jags because that is exactly what a whole bunch of people have been trying to get me to do. I even got a message from your boy Q, of course, who hosts Locked On Raiders, as well as he is on the ESPN national radio show. Your boy Q each and every day. And your boy Q basically said, wait, man, what's going on with this smoke I'm hearing about Genti? Is it true? And I'll tell you what I said. I said probably 20% chance, 1 in 5. I don't think there are 5 players they're choosing from, but I think there's a 1 in 5 chance that they decide to do that because I think they'll have a number of options. Now, so this is all coming up because most people believe that Travis Hunter, if you take the quarterbacks out of it, that Travis Hunter is the best player in the draft. I am a firm believer in that. I have said that. I like Abdul Carter too. I'm looking more and more into it. Abdul Carter played edge rusher 1 year. He was a linebacker before that. And that's why when people go, I don't see him as a stacked linebacker, I'm like, well, that's what he played before he became an edge rusher. But his value is in his ability to get the quarterback. The same thing that we talk about Jalen Walker. No matter where you like them, their value is that they are able to impact the quarterback on third down with Josh Allen and with Trayvon Walker without moving those guys around in their base. And the value is also that you're not just drafting them to be edge 3. They can actually give you play at other positions. So that's what makes them intriguing because they're good football players. But if you don't necessarily need an edge to start, but you do need additional pass rush, those guys have that kind of value. The thing is I've said the draft starts at pick 2 because the Titans are rumored to be all in on number 1 and going and getting Cam Ward to be their quarterback. And I understand that. Many times the quarterback isn't the best overall prospect, but they still go number 1 because of the positional value of that position. So what we're being faced with here is the prospect and the thought of Shedeur Sanders falling in the draft, definitely falling out of the top 5. And what that does is if teams start going for best player available when they're that high, what it means is Travis Hunter will be gone, Abdul Carter will probably be gone, and Cam Ward will be gone. And then right there looking at the Jaguars after New England picks whoever they're going to pick. And I would assume that if Cam Ward goes number 1, New England doesn't want a quarterback. I would say Cleveland at number 2 takes either Carter or Travis Hunter. And then at number 3, the Giants either move out and let somebody come up and get one of those guys, or they take the guy that's left on the board. And then at number 4, you're looking at the Patriots, who don't need a quarterback, who are probably a team that is a candidate to move back and get more ammunition, or they could just go offensive lineman at that spot. And then you leave the Jaguars sitting there looking around like, oh, man, what are we going to do? I would not also rule out New England as a team that could take Ashton Jeanty because of who their coach is, and that's Mike Vrabel, right? The thing is a lot of people that believe Genti is one of the 2 best players in this draft. I'm one of them. I've come around to it. I thought he was a top 4 player. I've come around to thinking that maybe his value is a little bit higher. And the reason why is this, because of who he is, not because of the shelf life of running backs, not because of how people value running backs. I'm making the case for Ashton Jeanty for the Jaguars for this reason. 1, because y'all requested it. And 2 is because the Jaguars coaches with Liam Cohen, they're one of the few teams that I've seen in the league. And matter of fact, they're one of the few teams I've seen in a long time play 2 halfbacks at one time on a whole bunch of occasions. There were a lot of times last year where you saw Tampa have 2 tailbacks in the game. That makes tailback 2 and tailback 3 RB1, not just running back 1, because if you take Genti, he's running back 1. But it also then makes running back 2 and 3 even that more valuable. How? Because if somebody gets hurt or dinged up, running back 3 now becomes the dude in the 2 back sets that you want to employ, and you don't have to change what it is that you do. Also, Travis Etienne is the last year of his contract. Also, while Tank Bigsby is a power back, he's not the best pass catcher or best complete back, and he's been loosey-goosey with the football a little bit. And I don't think, even though he can be the type of running back that's a bell cow back, I don't think he has the versatility to really do that, although I think he's a very, very good player. I think Detroit has shown people the way. Even though they don't play their 2 running backs as much as I'm insinuating that Liam Cohen might do that for the Jaguars, they don't play them together as much, but they do split time, and they are both very valuable doing certain parts of the game. Jahmyr Gibbs is a game breaker, and he can catch, and he kills you with that speed. And then as soon as you get used to that, here they come with their other running back, and Montgomery, and the dude he's killing you with breaking tackles, right? So what if you had that guy in one player? What if you had that guy in one player? David Montgomery is a very, very good player. Jahmyr Gibbs I think David Montgomery even makes more money than Jahmyr Gibbs, if I'm not mistaken. No, Jahmyr Gibbs makes the most, but David Montgomery usually starts the game. Jahmyr will end up getting more touches. So they really balanced that out real well, sort of the way Sean Payton did when he had Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram. I think this duo in Detroit is better. So if a team is going to have 2 players like that and put them on the field at the same time, that gives more value, if you will, to the person who is running back 3, because if that's what they want to do all the time, we talked about why they changed the wide receiver room. I think the way that they have used the running backs in the past, they can change the running back room and the concept of how they use running backs based on what they want to do. So that's the value part of it. I'll get into the positional value and all of that stuff in our next segment. I have a clip from the Locked On NFL show that I do every single day called The Barbershop. You can check that out. Like I said, shameless plug. But Matt Williamson, a former NFL scout and the host of the Peacock and Williamson podcast, also the founder of Locked On NFL as a show, one of the founders of the show. He's my Friday guest every week, and we had a nice little discussion, and I mentioned that I was going to include that on Locked On Jaguars because I want you to hear it, not just from me, but from someone else that covers the league and does a really, really good job. So we'll get into that and more as we talk Ashton Jeanty to the Jaguars. We'll give you another perspective on it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. The Armada Player of the Week is brought to you by our friends over at Nissan and the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Each week, we're taking a look at our draft prospects to pick one guy that stands apart that we believe showcase the strength, power needed to push the team, whatever team that is for you, forward as we look ahead to next season. We're going to talk about Ashton Jeanty, the dude that we were just mentioning, right? Ashton Jeanty is this week's clear-cut Player of the Week. Look, he's heavy-duty, just like the Armada, rugged, conquers the road with capability and confidence, and it allows your team, if you get him, to dream big. And that's what we're doing right now when it comes to Nissan Armada, because they say go forth and conquer, and that's exactly what I think Ashton Jeanty will do. It's clear that our Player of the Week is here, ready to conquer the road ahead with confidence, just like you can in the all-new Nissan Armada, any of their outstanding vehicles. Take the Nissan Armada Rogue, Pathfinder, or go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. All right, rolling along here on a Friday on Locked On Jaguars, where it is your team every day. Glad you are here to join us. And I normally say I'm not a jukebox. You can't tell me what to do. I don't need a program director. But sometimes you got to give the people what they want. And the people wanted me to talk about Ashton Jeanty and the possibilities of him becoming the Jacksonville Jaguar. This is not me sitting out here waving a flag for it. This is not me petitioning for it, trying to get everybody on my side about it. What it is just giving you a different perspective as we head up to the draft process. And it's not hedging our bets here, but what it is an opportunity for us to look at all the possibilities and all the scenarios. And once we find out what the Jaguars did, kind of compare their reasoning to what we think their reasoning could be if they do it in foresight. So we'll do the hindsight later, but right now you can't have hindsight if you don't have something to bounce it off of. And this is the court. We're going to bounce what they end up doing off of what we said here as an example of the why. For instance, I did a show earlier this week where I kind of felt the feeling that people were saying we don't have a grown man in the building, and these dudes are new at what they're doing, and they're just going to be like somewhere else, and everybody's so nice and alignment, and it's kumbaya. It's like, I said, no, don't get it twisted. These guys are driven. And then the Jaguars come out with their 39-minute video yesterday, and now everybody's saying I'm ready to run through a brick wall. And yeah, this is the point where I'm telling you, I told you so. This is why I do these shows, because I told you those guys ain't soft. I told you they want to win. I told you they got that eagle eye, and they are competitive. And now everybody sees exactly what I'm talking about. I didn't even know they were making that video, but I'm glad I was able to mention that. That's why I do what I do here. I do it for y'all. I do it for the people. And just to try to make sure you have eyes wide open and are not blindly going into this thing just because of how much you love the team and how much you want them to be victorious. So I'm going to play a clip here from the Peacock and the Locked On NFL show with my man, Matt Williamson. Like I said, Matt was an NFL scout. He does a really, really good job on a podcast called The Scout's Eye, and he's on our network here with Peacock and Williamson podcast. It's always good to talk to him. We do it every Friday. We had a nice conversation about Ashton Jeanty. So instead of me just sitting here telling you what we said, I'll let the clip do the talking for you. I want you to check this out. But at the top, we're going to start with Ashton Jeanty and running back positional value. Here's what I'm going to tell you about value before we get to Matt Williamson. I think sometimes we overuse the word or use it in the wrong vernacular. I think people believe positional value means like if there's a whole bunch of running backs, their value goes up. That's wrong. If there's a whole bunch of running backs, teams seem to wait. They'll say, "Oh, we can." The term I hate is we can find a guy, because the guy you're going to find ain't the guy who you pass up. Because it's not just about checking boxes or getting a position. It's about here. It's about who that person is and what he means when you inject him into your franchise. Matty, talk to me, man. Am I on it? Am I in the neighborhood?
Yeah. I even sent a tweet last night. I didn't know we were going to have this conversation, that I was watching some Genti stuff last night, and I think him and Hunter are clearly the best two players in this draft. And I don't think Carter's a bad prospect, and Ward's obviously a quarterback, and he's going first. But the two top guys, like I always talk about this time of year, if I were to bet on one player to go to the Hall of Fame out of this class, it would be one of those two. It'd be Hunter or Genti. Now, I do that in every class. I mean, it's like, if you pick
who's the yellow jacket? Right. Yeah.
I mean, who's that one guy? And those are my two picks for this year. Now, I am not a huge believer in running back in round one, and I think a lot of it isn't necessarily position value as it is just dollars and cents. I mean, the Eagles signed Saquon Barkley basically the exact same contract that Gabe Davis signed a year ago, and then they re-upped him to much less than what Dan Moore is making. And obviously he's way better than those guys. But I just pulled up drafthistory.com. And going back to 2015, the running backs drafted in the top 10 are Todd Gurley, Ezekiel Elliott, Leonard Fournette, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley. Scrolling here, there's a little stretch where there's not any, and Bijan Robinson. I mean, if Leonard Fournette is the worst of them by a mile, and everyone else is like Hall of Fame or close to it, Genti's worth the 6th pick in the draft or wherever you take him because he's that good.
And Fournette was a
bad
player when you look at statistically, and he ended up being a better pass catcher than a whole bunch of people thought. It's a very, very interesting conversation. I'm going to use this on Locked On Jaguars. I'm going to tell you right now, but let's hear from the guys. I think Detroit has really shown people how you use running backs, right? With the way that they employ their 2 running back system. I'm going to talk about my man Tyler Rowland, who obviously is Locked On Titans, but he also hosts the Madman Tyler Rowland Locked On NFL show that comes on early in the day. And on the barbershop, I come in second. We had a spirited back and forth the other day. And he says that he said something to the effect on the post that Genti he's not Derrick Henry. He's not Adrian Peterson. He's not Saquon Barkley. I agree with him. He's not. He's not 6'1", 230 pounds, full of muscles, running a 4.3 freakazoid. But inconspicuous in that, the fact that he went back to Adrian Peterson. While Peterson may be one of the most talented backs in the NFL history, there's a back that played at the time that Peterson did that's better, that had a better career. Not the physical freak, probably wouldn't get drafted ahead of him. LaDainian Tomlinson, and nobody ever mentions him. The dude had almost 12,000 yards his first 8 seasons. His first 8 seasons, he had 126 touchdowns and 500 receptions. What I'm telling you is that there's a difference between talent and impact. Now, notice people always compare Jeanty to Emmitt Smith, right? Emmitt is never mentioned as one of the most talented running backs ever. The thing is if a running back is an identity creator, and what I mean by that is he's the dude for the next 6-7 years that's going to touch that ball 28 times, and it's going to cause nightmares, especially if your offensive line is correct. It's going to cause nightmares for the defensive coordinator for the other team because they don't want to get pounded on. They also don't want to get pounded on, put too many people in the box, and then once he breaks through second level, he's gone. And now this opens things up for wide receivers. That's what I think he is. So while he physically may not be as talented as those dudes, his stocky build looks like a durable build. It looks like a guy who can touch the ball a whole bunch, and it could make a team come into his identity and create holes for everybody else.
I love what you said there. The Tomlinson comparison is spot on to me. Low, tough, super agile, big play, passing game, all those things. And you use the word impact. I think that whoever drafts Genti it gives the entire offense a facelift. It just changes the whole identity of his new team. And I always urge people, like, if you're sitting there watching TV at home and it's 4th and 1 and your favorite team's playing and the other team has the ball and you're like, boy, I hope they don't go for it here. And they go for it. You're like, damn. So in that perspective, like from the Raiders, do you think the Chargers, Chiefs, and Broncos want the Raiders to draft Genti? Like, if they go to the podium, Las Vegas Raiders select Ashton Jeanty. Chiefs fans, and especially Chiefs and Chargers and Denver defensive coordinators, as you mentioned, should say bad words.
Yeah, they should be saying bad words. I'm telling you, man. So now everybody kind of understands what my thinking is. He ain't generational when it comes to the way he's built. He's like, what, 5'8.5", 217, 223, whatever it is. You watch him play, man. It's like a fire hydrant with spikes on it. It's almost like Maurice Jones-Drew without what you saw from Mojo later when he had foot issues and had some conditioning issues. Genti isn't like that. Like when we had James Robinson here, everybody was in love with James Robinson. James Robinson wasn't anywhere near as good as Ashton Jeanty is. What if you had James Robinson and he doesn't get chubby and he has nitrous in his back? That's what this kid is. The Jaguars would really have Brian Thomas Jr. by the end of this season will be a top 5 wide receiver, mark my word. Genti, I think, by game 6, whoever he plays for is going to be considered a top 6, top 7 running back in this league. And he's not a Bijan Robinson type where, look, I blamed everything about Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts on Arthur Smith because he didn't know how to use them. But you got a whole new coaching staff in Atlanta, and they still look like they don't know how to use them, which tells me that everybody's not out of step with Johnny. People have been calling into question Bijan's vision, his commitment to the pounding. He's more of an air back. He's a dude that's 220 pounds, but they're acting like he's Jahmyr Gibbs. They're acting like he's Alvin Kamara, like a guy that you have to give. You can't keep giving him the ball over and over. That's not who Ashton Jeanty is, man. Ashton Jeanty is a throwback. And this is why I compare him to the great running backs that you can bell cow and lean on them. Now, there's a downside to it. I'm going to tell you what the downside to all of that is in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. Talked about a lot of pros when it's coming down to talking about Ashton Jeanty at running back, specifically for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now we have to do our due diligence and give you the not so pro or the cons, if you will. There's nothing negative on him at all. I'll tell you 2 of them. One of them is when you have a bell cow running back, you know you ain't got him for 10 years. You get a pass rusher, you might have him for 12. You get a quarterback or a wide receiver, you got him for a decade or a dozen. You get a left tackle, you really got him for a long time. You get a defensive tackle, he's going to play for a decade or so at a very, very high level if he's a good football player. You get a corner, you got to pay him, but still, that's another position where it seems like these dudes play forever. And when you're picking in the top 5, you want that yellow jacket dude. You want that forever guy, right? You want Jimmy Smith. You want somebody that has that kind of impact. You want Tony Baselli without the injuries, of course. Shout out to Tony. You want, at the very least, Fred Taylor, 8 1,000-yard seasons. You want guys that, like, you want Rasheem Mathis, dudes that are going to play for a long, long time for you, right? And there's only a handful of Jaguars that have ever done that. With a running back like Genti, you're lucky if you get 8 years. You heard Matt mention Todd Gurley, Hall of Fame talent, Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley been retired like 3 or 4 years, and he's still like 3rd or 4th in yards since like the last 10 years. It's some crazy stat out there. He was that good, but he got banged up. You see Nick Chubb banged up, right? But it's that kind of impact that I think Ashton Jeanty could have, but you just got to wonder how long it's going to go. Maurice Jones-Drew, how long is it going to last? There was a point where for about 3 or 4 years, Mojo was one of the 3 or 4 best running backs in the league. How long can it last? Well, that's where the Jaguars come in with their 2 running back sets. I think just because you have a bell cow guy, you can still spell him every now and then. You can still use some other people. But the issue then becomes, this is the other con. Does it change the Jaguars' identity from who they want to envision themselves being moving forward? Now, I know they talk about guys being intangibly rich, and I think this kid is very, very intangibly rich. But when you draft a dude like this, are you paying him or are you drafting him to just come in and kind of blend in with what your mind says that you want to be? Or are you drafting him saying, no, dude, this is what we're going to be. It's going to be you. It's going to be Trevor. It's going to be BTJ. Or are we going to be a team that is very, if you're trying to make Trevor Lawrence have the persona of Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow or Josh Allen, then maybe it's not for you. If you put a little bit, take a little bit of that stuff off that everybody glossed over, all these terms, generation and all that, and you say, no, you're going to be able to get that, but you're going to get it in a different way. You're going to get it kind of like how Troy Aikman got it. Super, super talented, but still, we're going to use your talent. We just want you to be efficient with your talent. We don't need to just go out here and just try to let your talent be on full display and let you throw the ball 45 times a game. Then, yeah, you can do this. How much of this thought process, though, changes who the Jaguars think they are personality-wise? Because when you draft him, you're drafting him as an identity player. You're drafting him as the focal point of your offense. That means you're taking a little bit off the plate from Trevor, and you're going to be a running team that takes a little bit off of having all of these big weapons and receivers all over the place. But if I go back and I listen to Liam Cohen, he says he wants to run the football. Says he wants to be in your face. Says he wants to be downhill. I think the two running backs they have on the team now are capable of doing that splitting time. I also think they'll add another player in this draft because this draft is very, very deep. So there's a chance you could get production without taking a guy like this in the top 5. But as I said before, you're not getting him. So do you want him? Do you want him to have his own identity and add him to the proverbial pot of gumbo that we're building in Jacksonville and put whatever Ashton Jeanty is into that mix? Or do you want to do it the way they've been doing it in the past around here and just bring a guy in who can fit in with this flawed kind of way that you want to go about moving? I think it's the first part of it. The more I sit here and think about it, when they talk about intangibles and talk about all I got to do is come in here and be themselves and guys just be able to line up and play, I absolutely think Liam Cohen is the type of person that could get the most out of a player like Ashton Jeanty. I also think Tony Boselli knows the value of having a really, really good running back because he played with Fred Taylor when they had Fred and Jimmy and Keenan. I also believe that everyone in the league has watched Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry and Jahmyr Gibbs over the last year and realized having that bell cow, having that guy, having the dude, think about it like this, what Matt said something about going forward on 4th down. How many times the Jaguars went forward on 4th down? You knew they didn't have a chance in hell to get it. You hit Ashton Jeanty, guess what? He's going to bounce off a lot of these tackles. His build, the way he is built, that compact build, he doesn't fumble. He has speed. He has elusiveness. It's almost like if you really listen to everything everybody's saying, all roads point right to Ashton Jeanty being the pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I'm sitting here almost convincing myself as I do this show. Don't close your mind to it. That was supposed to be a segment about the cons, but not con as in Tony and Shot, con as in C-O-N, like reasons why not to do something, and I'm still sitting there saying they should do it. Have we just hit an epiphany? Epiphany? Is that what it's called? An epiphany? Have we just had this moment? Is this some sort of, is this going to be deja vu a week from now when all of a sudden it hits me and I'm saying he's got to be the pick for the Jaguars? I know the team is picking behind the Jaguars that your boy Q covers every single day. I got a text from him for a reason. I think the Raiders want him, and I think Q knows that. And that'll be 2 years that the Raiders take a player that everyone says doesn't have a whole bunch of positional value. Last year it was tight end Brock Bowers. This year it's Ashton Jeanty. Could they possibly do that and maybe get one of the 3 best pure football players in the country and then make everybody mad in the AFC? I'm just telling you, ponder all of that stuff. And just ask yourself, is it worth it? Would it be worth it? Yeah. If they don't do it, would you be mad? No. 3 years from now, if he's the second coming of LaDainian Tomlinson, would you look sideways and say, damn, he could be out there we could have LaDainian Tomlinson with Brian Thomas Jr. and an improved Trevor because of the quarterback situation, because of the coaching and an improved offensive line. Man, how many points would this team score? How dangerous they be offensively? Just want you to think about that. Ponder this too. Go on over to Locked On NFL Draft and check out Damian Parsons and Keith Sanchez because you'll get it like you can't get nowhere else over on Locked On NFL. Make sure you tap into Locked On NFL Draft. Make sure you tap into Locked On NFL also each and every day with myself and Tyler Rowland. Think about it. Genti to the Jags. You asked for it. I hope I deliver. We'll see you next time here on Locked On Jaguars.